Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn from Expert series from Orkestra Online. And today we have Steve DeWitt, and he's an automation expert as well. And we will start with a little bit introduction about ourselves. I'm Emrullah Yildiz, a growth product manager at Orkestra. I will shortly introduce what Orkestra Online is for the people who are hearing it for the first time. So Orkestra Online is an AI-powered automation platform built for AEC industry. We help architects, engineers, and construction teams automate their work, connect disconnected software, and build custom workflows without having to develop everything from scratch. Our vision is simple. Engineering teams should spend their time solving engineering problems and not moving data between applications or repeating manual setup tasks. At the heart of Orkestra is OKPy Agent, an AI-powered development assistant that can understand your automation goals, generate production-ready scripts and plugins, and ask clarifying questions when requirements are incomplete. And it can also help you iterate much faster than traditional development with its AI-powered system. Whether you need a Revit plugin or Rhino workflow, BIM automation, or integrations between multiple design tools, Orkestra helps teams to go from idea to working solution in hours instead of weeks. We believe AI should empower engineers and bring expertise of people to the tools that they are building. So that's Orkestra Online, and I will let the Steve take the stage. And Steve, it's all yours. Can you a little bit introduce yourself and tell us about what your role and work you do today?
Sure. So thank you. I run and own Custom Building Configurators, and primarily our goal is to work with customers, listen to their problems, and find where these customers need configurators and/or automation and support of configurators. Companies have different kinds of outputs. I traditionally work with industrialized construction companies or prefab companies because their desires are, and some of their modeling requirements are a little more restricted, a little more complicated, and they also have to produce these at large scale and very fast. So there's a good need in that particular market for automation and for model automation. So I've been focusing on model automation, I guess, since Dynamo really kind of first came out. And I primarily, spend most of my day inside of Dynamo and talking to customers about what their pains are. And sometimes they have solutions, and then sometimes I have to kind of, come up with a handful of solutions, test those out, make sure those APIs are accessible for creating and for editing and for manipulating. And, that's kind of what we do.
You are also helping them to adopt the technology in a large scale, or you just deliver the solution and that's it from your side?
So we will create platforms for teams that require all kinds of documentation, implementation, and support. And there's lots of cases where we need a company might need a smaller bespoke tool that is just a Revit add-in, or maybe even just a graph, to create that particular workflow. What I like to do, if I can get my way, is when I understand how we might be solving this problem, I usually, like to create it in a graph and work it out with the users so that they understand the workflow and the if-then statements that can occur so that they can see. If people tend to get worried when you get into automation, and what I'm trying to prove to them is the setup and the workflow so that they understand it. But I also want them to understand that these results are deterministic. And I think people find gratitude in knowing that the end result is always going to be something that they have forced a result and they do not want, or maybe they will later, but at this moment, they can appreciate knowing what the results are going to be.
That's awesome. Yeah, automation is something, you can create something and make people's life very happy. Looking at the AC industry, what are the biggest workflow challenges or inefficiencies that still frustrate you when you start automating something? Do you have anything, this should have been this way, or we should have done better? with this tool and stuff like that. Do you have any inefficiencies that's, yeah.
Absolutely. Two things I would say. I would say interoperability is a big one.
Yeah.
There are lots of good reasons to use in schematic design massing tools, right? And there's lots of good reasons to use SketchUp, and there's lots, those tools that are just
Hmm.
really easy and I'd say simpler to use because there's simply just not as much data, being modeled or extracted and everything that like BIM and Revit style tools do, right? So interoperability is a big one. And as we grow towards prefab and as we grow towards more complex, we have kind of a responsibility to model these things in a way where there's greater exposure so that we're identifying where clashes are going to be. So the ability to model in a tool that makes the most sense at the right time is really, really powerful.
Hmm.
That's one, interoperability. And I think the second one that I'm probably the most passionate about right now is externalized rules. There are rules in construction in general, and there's rules in design, right? And so, how can we share rules to influence all of the tools that we're using? And then what rules do we even externalize? Where do you put those? How do they become accessible? What APIs can you call? So I think those two things are very important, which is, in my opinion, why, tools like Rhino and Dynamo and Grasshopper, you can find yourself validating these rules through Python and, just mathematics in general. And these rules can then be pushed to the same tool, obviously, to show the graphic, but then additionally now to other tools to just go and sync and receive data as you author it and then also as you edit it, which is very much a different deal. Authoring from a rule is one thing. If you're modifying geometry in other programs and having to go validate that rule, that's a completely different workflow as far as APIs are concerned and how to do that. So I think those are pretty big gaps.
So what you are saying is like it is one thing to automate, but it is another thing to validate it's correctly automated. Am I understanding correctly? Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. I remember that they asked me in this question in one of the interviews that I joined. How do you validate the information is correctly received, that your output is expected? And what are the methods that you would use? And how do you do that? How do you verify that your automation is correct?
If I have my way, I know where it's stored and I know that I've externalized it, right? I think you've got to, when you break these conversations out with customers, it's so important to look at one product, meaning like, let's say, multifamily is always kind of my go-to, but let's say we've got a multifamily project. You go select 3 projects and you can kind of see what was similar or what was repeated, not necessarily just in geometry, but maybe how they built it and maybe how it was delivered and maybe how it was designed. And so knowing all of these factors is
Mhm.
it's going to have influence on this.
Yeah, you need to know what you are doing. And
We hope that's going on, I go, right?
yeah, and among these projects, what was the automation project that you had the biggest impact on your team or company, organization?
I'd say there were 2 configurators that I built. One was not it's never I. There's always a whole support team behind you.
Yeah.
One was 10 years ago, and I demoed that at the San Francisco Computational Design Forum, and it was essentially a web-based configurator that outputted a fabrication-ready model that we could drive a CNC machine with and get a complete bill of material in like minutes, right? And the problem that it solved was essentially we had wonderful sales folks at our firm, right? And they could go out and they could land projects left and right. But the problem is
Yeah.
they would be one-off, or they would be a one-off design from something we had built before, or they'd be a one-off design completely. And so we were always re-engineering it. And so what we did is we essentially provided them an interface and a web application that let them freely form a building within the rules and constraints that we could provide. And this was before the APIs were available to actually drive this. The dynamo hadn't even come out yet. So there was no real way to create input. Well, I mean, there's always a way, but we needed to create inputs. And now we essentially created the inputs in the web. And then we used, as complicated as it might have seemed, Excel as an output. And to actually get the outputs, we would then consume it inside of Revit with just ones and zeros and spaces and configurations. So that was one. And then another one we did had a similar result, except there was no web application. We took inputs of unit types and sizes of buildings and configurations. And we could take that in a massing format. We could take that in Revit, we could take that in CAD, and essentially we needed a bill of material. So the problem that this configurator solved was we needed to be able to consume any architect's model, because we weren't the architect of record in this particular case. And so we didn't design anything. And so we needed to consume these models, and the output needed to be a pricing quote, right? So we needed essentially a framing bill of material for floors, roofs, ceilings, walls, everything across the board as it relates to wood and total enclosure. And that normally took 3 to 4 weeks. And so we needed a way, so that means you've got 1 or 2 dedicated people constantly just trying to consume 10 to 15 models a year. And so we took that process down to about an hour, and we could consume 12 models in a day if we really wanted to work a 12-hour day, I guess. But, the idea is it took it down dramatically, and we got it down to about a 3% error margin. And so it changed the way the business was structured, right? And we never eliminated jobs, so that's not necessarily what happened. It's just the folks who were typically going through and doing all the takeoffs. Yeah, so it was a great, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool.
It's always fun to have such an impact on people's life. You really enjoy your job when that happens. And when you demonstrate these tools to companies, new automation solutions, what are the biggest challenges that you encounter when trying to make companies adopt these technologies?
I'd say some of the biggest are, it is hard to ask a company to change everything from the ground up, right? That's almost impossible. It's also hard to ask a company to try a completely new process alongside their existing process, because they're going to pay for it in doubly, right? So those are hard asks. And in technology, and I feel like in construction in general, that we still haven't found enough trust between all new systems yet. We're able to do it in an old school way and know that it's done properly, and you just can't screw up in construction. So it's very hard to trust technology. So I think adoption, and then adoption at a new scale, right, I think is also hard.
Yeah. So you introduce a new tool, it comes with a learning cost. They need to learn how it's being used and understand the requirements. So it's always hard to, make people's life easier without pain. And so pain is good for everyone. We learn. For example, for me, if I don't feel any pain when I'm doing something, I don't feel I'm growing. We go to gym, we feel it. We learn a new language, we learn with pain and struggle and sweat, everything. If we want a better life, we need to challenge ourselves and challenge our current situation and grow with pain. I agree with you. It's always hard to change people's habits and gaining trust. What did work for you? When it comes to trust or adopting the solution? How did you manage to convince them?
I typically will try to find low-hanging fruit, right? Something that maybe they're struggling on that I can go fix, and be like, here is what this will do for you, or here's what these kinds of workflows kind of create. I also, in some cases, depending upon, the size of the customer and if they're willing to pay for this, I'll do a very simple, lightweight proof of concept. And I think that tells a beautiful story, because the problem is serious, and the problem in some cases costs a lot of money, if you look at it long term, the scale of the cost is minimal, but the upfront cost of potentially creating the tech, the upfront cost of training the team, the upfront cost of potentially having one bug that you didn't recognize that is going to, be somewhat problematic. But a proof of concept, I feel like, is very important. And I feel like some of the tools that we've got enable us to do that, not easily, but easy enough, right? You still need a subject matter expert, right? And AI can help in generating some code, but you still need the person that has the brain behind the network of information that is going to at least take you down the right path to start with. And then, each branch can kind of carry on a mind of its own, if you will, if you're following my path here. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Low-hanging fruit in their ecosystem, what's not working and costing money. That's a good strategy. And right now, AI is everywhere. You use it in AEC, in other places in our daily life. And did you discover any place that AI is delivering an actual value for you in AEC? Did you ever integrated AI into your workflows and notice that this is a perfect spot to use AI?
So in the integrations that I've seen and dealt with, I've tested a few things that I won't do any judgment on because I didn't spend enough time to truly understand their real powers. And in the experiences that I have on using released product right now, absolutely, I feel like it's worth it. And this is not going to do it justice either, right? But like in some situations right now where I'll have an agent running in my design tool, there are scenarios where I'll ask it to do something I know how to do, but I just don't want to do it because of time. And there's also situations where I'm wanting an agent to complete a task that I know I'll also know how to do, but there's might be 12 ways to get there, right? So I like, and sometimes it's wonderful because I can limit it to not just building Python scripts the whole time, which in some cases is great, but that also makes it hard for the user to go in and understand in some cases maybe why things are happening, right? So I find I find it insanely helpful. It's taught me how to probably use the tool differently, meaning like if it were manual, right? So it's taught me better paths to be successful. And then additionally, I've also seen it make many mistakes, right? And that's fine, right? And it's probably, in some cases it's
Part of
prompting, like
automation.
that's part, right? You've got to go through it. But I think where we're struggling in adoption in general is a lot of these things are on newer products and you can only test in newer products, right? And there's not a lot of companies that are able to say, I'm going to start off in today's version. No one's going to trust, a version that came out, even with Revit being a 25-year-old, 30-year-old platform at this point in time. You find yourself being like, I'm not going to jump into the newest version of Revit until the first or second service pack comes out, right? You just can't have critical mistakes when in construction. You just can't have it. It'll ruin your reputation and get sued. Right? It's devastating.
I think right now we don't need new tools anymore. We have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of solutions, startups are coming up, and right now there's an adoption problem. All the technology is available, all the solutions are there, and people have great ideas. Now they have time to implement solutions. I understand that shift, why a lot of companies are coming up now, because people have amazing ideas and they have now AI to build it for themselves, and they don't need big teams to handle all that stuff.
Technology is no longer the moat, I don't think. Technology is what used to separate companies. And now the subject matter experts have the ability to build around tech to make it something specific for their use case. And that is powerful. It's a weird shift.
And now companies not ready to adopt it, or governments are not ready to adopt it. They are running regulations, newer versions, and you need to be very careful about the legal side and how you are storing the data and stuff like that, which is very interesting times for us. I think it is lucky for us now. Maybe with one idea, you can be a millionaire by launching a product in 2 days. That site is very amazing. And from your side, have you ever used Orkestra Online or KPI agent? Did you had any chance to try it?
I have not. No, I've reviewed and seen
Perfect.
a couple demos. So
Perfect. You are the perfect person to do the demonstration so that we can get a real authentic feedback about how AI is efficient for you. So we asked Steve to give us a project and automation idea. Can you a little bit talk about that idea, Steve? Why did you pick that workflow? And
yeah,
you can introduce the workflow as well. I will share my screen and open the project.
yeah. So I shared a Revit model with him that I have produced to create. So let me tell you the logic behind this. So
Yeah.
this geometry that you see here was not generated in Revit. It was generated via automation, right? So
Hmm.
what happens is I have a web configurator that I've built for a DevCon demo that I did in April.
Yeah.
And the idea was this massing tool that generates box architecture, very simple representations of units. And then essentially these products are wall panels, and these wall panels get generated from this box architecture, right? So a
Yeah.
box, now granted, you don't see them in arrangements, but that's because it's kind of my test bed. But the idea here is this was generated from Inventor using another product called Informed Design to create the variations and the 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 differences between one panel to another, and then they were programmatically inserted inside of this file just to track it and schedule it and make sure that some quantities were coming out properly. But what I thought was interesting about using this kind of a test case is there's quite a few instances. There's multiple instances of one type. There's one instance of one type. So there's quite a few different scenarios set up. But to
Mhm.
take this information, once you've got it strategically placed, and then create documentation and scheduling around it, and maybe bill of material, there's just a whole bunch behind here that needs to get done. And so I just kind of wanted to give a file that said I was
Yeah.
generated over here. It still has valuable Revit information inside of it, parameters that are shared, parameters that are not shared, parameters that are driven by another program but exposed, right? So I wanted something that I think had interoperability problems. Like I was saying, that's one big problem. So I wanted to show some interoperability here,
Mhm.
and then show how there are rules nested inside of here as well. Or I guess I should say the rules driven it. But yeah, there was a lot to it, even though it's kind of a messy drawing. But there was a lot to generating this geometry.
I see. And for the documentation part, what type of information are you looking for? Is it parameters or materials or everything, whatever it can find?
I would say you would want a traditional shop drawing style approach, right? So you want to put it on a sheet and you want to scale it to a right scale, and you want a materials list of what's inside of that individual thing. You also want, these things to be annotated. So you know that member A is material type X, and member A is, 7 feet 9 3/4 of an inch. So traditional, let's say, shop drawing style approach documentation.
Okay, so let's with the OK Pie. So little bit about how I came here. So we have Orchestra tab here, and we have Orchestra, which opens this hub, and you have OK Pie. And with Orchestra, you can share your automation tools within your company by giving access to this hub. And even you can share it with other companies as well. So here we have the OKPy agent. We are creating a new tool. You can pick C# or Python language, and you can select a Revit or Rhino template. And now we are a coding editor. We have input zone and agent area. So we want a shopping style documentation for our wall panels. Is that correct?
Yeah, shop drawing for wall panels.
Oh, shop drawing, yeah. In style, wall panel We want your drawing style. You want a drawing, let's put it a better way. Wall panel style.
Or you could even
dimension.
say sheet. Yeah, maybe sheet would be better to say because we're really required to create a sheet inside of Revit, probably, right?
Created in a sheet. And in this documentation, we want to see
An elevation. We want to see
elevation and what?
a plan view.
And some schedules about materials, type,
Lengths.
lengths, width.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we want a drawing from, okay, if you need any other detail, not solution. So you can write what you need, and you can also add, if something is missing, don't decide it yourself. Ask me
Yeah.
about it. And it will
This is the
create,
deterministic result. It's great to have that feedback loop. It's so important
yeah,
because it's easy to miss what title block to use for that sheet, which maybe it'll
yeah.
ask.
So here is the question. This is an ambitious tool, a shop drawing generator for wall panels. Before I design it, I need to understand the scope. What should the tool produce? An interactive WPF preview plus sheet creation. A WPF window where you select wall panels, preview the layout, configure options, then creates a Revit sheet with placed views and, this is interesting. Let's go with that. Is that okay for you? I clicked,
Yeah,
but
that's the one I would have chosen.
yeah.
And WPF.
How should the wall panels be selected? What views,
So what
data?
WPF?
WPF is the window like this.
The viewer? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
we will have an interactive window. We will select what we want to see on the sheet, and then it will create the sheet. So one wall per sheet or multiple walls per sheet? Or do you want to describe it in a different way?
One wall per sheet.
Okay. So this WPF will be a floating panel so that you can still work in the background.
Yes. Meaning I can make edits to it and do what I need to, tied to the model.
And did you had this automated in the past, or you are just trying it now?
I have had some level of it automated. There are lots of things that I don't have automated successfully. I should have maybe mentioned this as dimensioning is you can dimension, but it becomes a little bit of a nightmare to do it in a way that really makes sense. And it's very rarely perfect. And that's fine. Not everything has to be perfect. But dimensioning can
Okay.
get a little bit of little hairy, if you will, meaning dimensions crossing over or not being able to see where a dimension line starts or stops.
Yeah. So actually, we have built a tool for auto dimensioning and with OKPy, and we will add it soon to the library, and you can use it for free, where you need to draw a rectangle, and it will collect every element inside of the rectangle, and you pick the categories that you want. It collects the categories in that rectangle, and you decide which categories you want to put dimension, and it gives you some customization as well, like distance between dimensions and so on.
Great. So you're going to have a library of predefined tools to throw in your workflow.
We have this library section where we have already added automations, and you can access them like Shadow Study Maker, Sheets Alignment, Weave Template Cleaner, and a lot of things, and we are adding more and more.
Cool. Great.
So I am using this tool in 2027, Revit 2027, and in this version, I think this 2.1.0.5 version of Orkestra, so 2.1, which is the latest version. And in this version, you will see that it will create a checklist of operations, the steps that it's following. And also when it has a preview for the UI, we will see a preview button that demonstrates the UI elements of your solution. So what it does as well, it checks the environment dynamically. If you are in Revit 2027 and it has a different API than 2026, it will understand that. or if you are in Rhino, Civil 3D, AutoCAD, you can use Orkestra as well. So here we have the preview button appeared. So I think it's still still building. Let's see.
We have such high expectations. Oh, it's still thinking. Jeez.
Yeah.
So are these tools primarily focused for AEC?
Yes, mostly. But you know what I did with this tool? I created my own, so let's close this all, parametric design tool on the web.
I saw
Yeah.
this. This was
So
you did a demo. I saw this. Yeah.
yeah, so you can use it whatever you want. And there are many possibilities. The sky is the limit. It is just your imagination. And I have like whatever node I will need, I can just use the AI to create it for me. I am working on it. I am making a custom node, AI node. We describe what this node to do, and it will just make it happen, and so on. So you have this coding editor as well. So every node has a coding system in the background that you can play. And I'm solving like different things, like which node I did it for. I had one node that I have versions of the nodes. If I updated a node and published it, you can use the new version or old version by your choice. So it has amazing possibilities at OKPy. I fell in love with this tool personally. And but you can build whatever you want. It can create web applications. You can try maybe your configurator being built here. Maybe it will be much faster when you need to adapt it to another company.
By any
So
chance, is there like a documentation tool as well, like
I
a PDF that gives you step-by-step instructions on how it works?
you can the cool thing about this, if you have any plugin in Revit, it can understand its API as well. And you can make the documentation for that tool if it is a plugin.
Is
But
it an MCP server that it's connecting to, or?
no, it is just loading the libraries, DLLs that you have, and it reads them all and understands what is in there.
All right, cool.
So here is the panels. So what are these? We have bedroom exterior. Is this correct? The names like bedroom?
I don't remember which ones I had in there. I had a whole bunch in there. I think there'd be more, but I don't remember what I had put in there.
Oh, this one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so
no,
these are
not those walls. Sorry, those walls. The gray one, I'm not. That's a system family. I'm interested in the other ones.
Yeah, okay. So let's pick them up. So we want these ones as a wall panel. And sheet.
Wait, sorry. That is. So sorry. None of those walls. Can we? Oh, I see. I know where we went wrong here. So it's looking for the category of wall, but this is. Do you see? So this is an interesting anomaly here. This is part of the interoperability question, I would assume. So this is a trick that somehow happens as you take a system family and turn it into a loadable family, which there's a way to do. But this is a wall, but it's probably not finding it because of that, I assume.
No worries. We can
what was
fix
the
it.
name there? Yeah.
So we need to read these names, right? The type names.
That's fine. It's a good way.
Yeah. Okay. Let's test this as it is now and see what it does.
Okay.
And we can create another version. Start number 1.
Cool. So it gives you the title block. It gives you the sheet prefix and then the sheet number. Great, because that's going to be instance every single time. Love it. Cool. So what's cool about that is it figured out the instance level values that are going to need to be adjusted without forcing a result. So it said, hey, that's always a problem in general when you're talking to users about building a tool is what are your inputs and what are the things that are going to have to be unique every single time you produce this. So there's your schedule.
So it was saying click a wall to see the details. So if I click on this, it shows me what documentation it will add to the sheet as well. So let's see what we have here. So I have this sheet.
Cool. Yeah, now if we can get it to
So,
select that, if we can get it to select that other geometry, then there's cool. That's cool.
so this is the plan view,
And there's the
and this
elevation.
is the elevation view. Oh, okay. Yeah, very
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah.
And these are the schedules. Maybe not easy to read, specifically for material
It don't matter.
layers.
Well, and on top of that, right, getting the information on the sheet,
Yeah,
you can duplicate a schedule. If I, because in most cases, what you're going to do is you're going to have a predetermined schedule, and then you're going to change the type that it's filtering. And so I could say, go to this schedule, change this, and then change the
yeah,
filter to be this type, right? So
yeah,
that's not a issue. Do you think we could try one where we're selecting that the actual other geometry? Because okay, so it's finding
yeah,
anything that's with a wall right now. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that
So,
it's not locating that one or those panels because they're technically slightly different. I don't know how to.
yeah, no worries. I think we can handle it. So here is the preview part. You can select something and make a comment about it, and it will update only that part and only, that information. So we want to see wall panels type name listed here. Is that correct?
Sure. Let's see if it'll show them. Yeah. Content.
But this is not a wall. Walls doesn't
Nope.
have this
It's a.
freeform
It's.
element shape handle.
Uh,
This is a freeform element.
I don't know how they would classify it.
That's very interesting, by the way. I never saw freeform element tag on an
It's
element.
new. It literally, it's new, which is why I was curious
Very
about it because
interesting. But
I
that's the thing.
wonder family instances if there's any way we can select it. Right? It don't matter as long
Yeah,
as
I
we can
think it
select it
is.
somehow.
Yeah, it is not about we can just remove the wall filtering and everything.
Yeah,
We can just say just
select by name
document
or
document that create a documentation for the selected element, and we could generalize it.
yeah, we could even say select all elements in the
Yeah,
view and probably filter out walls and be fine.
we can pick them
The selecting
from the
of it isn't
list.
the deal, right? It's more about just trying to figure out a way to generate helpful documentation on hundreds of there's in any given project, there's about 1,500 to 2,000 instances of a panel. And so some of these are repeated. Most of them have unique characteristics about them that still need to be documented in the exact same way as the one that's similar to it. So we're trying to find ways to mimic that.
I see. And from which environment you said these are coming from?
They're
These
coming
wall
from Inventor and
inventor.
iParts, and I'm using iParts to make them configurable. But what I can do, Imru, is I can find a generic model one that I built as a generic model and I did it, right? And it's still just as complicated as a element. I just have to dig it up. It's old, but
Yeah,
I could easily dig that up and we could show the same thing. I'd be curious to know why we can't select that thing as a wall because it's funny, I don't know if I've
hmm,
done it in Dynamo yet. I've done it through some, we should be able to like select by parameter value or something.
I see. Yeah, I don't know. Like they should be acting like a wall because they're under wall category.
Yeah,
And
but it's,
what else they can use for classification? We know it works.
there it is.
So let's say generate sheets. So it created special floor plans for those elements.
Cool.
And for the sheets,
That's what I'm talking about.
okay. So we have the elevation. We need to
Cool.
adjust the
That's fine.
placement.
One step at a time. It's there
Yeah,
and it's working. That's great.
and wall panel, another one.
I love it.
So basically
Cool.
that's it, I guess. This is
Yeah.
acceptable.
Let's spend another 15 minutes and I think we could probably take that to another level as well.
Yeah,
That's a little more with
directly usable.
one or two manual processes to set something up and duplicate a schedule and duplicate that schedule for this type and have it being exactly what you want. And yeah, there's some, that was pretty quick. That was cool.
I will stop sharing of my screen and, you know, I'm
Cool.
very interested in hearing your opinion
Yeah,
about OKPy as a first time, user or
I love the feedback loop. I love seeing the prompted instance level feedback that needs to get used that was not discussed when creating the prompt. So it the assumptions it made, you didn't have any other assumption. There was no other assumption to make, right? So it's like it didn't
yeah,
ask you for it at the beginning because it knows that it's going to be something that needs to be controlled every time you produce it. So the assumptions it made were important, and especially because, like I said, we didn't put it in the prompt. The feedback loop was great. Seeing the little UI button pop up before you even get there is even cooler. Um, yeah, that's it. It makes sense. Looking forward to digging in a little deeper.
awesome. And for the closing, what would you like to say for people who are just starting their journey to automation? There are architects who wants to learn coding, who wants to start automating. What would you say to yourself that who just graduated?
Take a 5 year break and go ride your mountain bike around some city you love first, and then get serious about life. But what I would say to a younger self of mine, if I were getting into the industry, is definitely take chances in safe ways, right? You're not producing drawings with artificial intelligence 100%, but take chances, learn the tools, see where you can save time. And I'd say even more so importantly, it's you're the subject matter expert telling the agent what to do, right? The agent's nothing without you. Become your expert and train your agent to think like you, and you're going to build some pretty amazing stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And that was it for this session. Thank you very much, Steve, for sharing your time. It was amazing to be with you again.
Likewise, Zimmer, thank you.